Hey, congratulations for passing your job interview. Unfortunately, I have some bad news for you. Passing your job interview does not necessarily mean that you are going to get the job offer. To get the job offer, you first need to pass the call center training. Only then are you going to get the job offer. No worries though, because in this video, I'm going to explain the four different stages of call center training, and I will also share some tips on how to pass each of the stage. So let's begin. So the first stage is the language training. This is usually the easiest stage of the training. This is where your trainer is going to discuss grammar rules, the subject verb agreement, the pronunciation, accent, and also a little bit of lesson about the culture of the country that you are going to be serving for. For example, if most of your customers are in the US, then your trainer is likely going to talk about the culture in the US as well as how to pronounce the 50 states in the United States. Because this is the easiest, most call center companies don't do this anymore. They usually skip this step and they proceed to the next stage. So if the company that you're in right now is doing language training, then consider yourself lucky and you should make the most of it because this is the easiest part of the training. So the stage 2 of the call center training is the product training. This is usually the most boring stage of the training, but this is also one of the most important, and this cannot be skipped. This is when you learn the company that you're going to be working for, and you're going to study the company policy and procedures. The only way that you can survive this step is to make sure that you take notes. This is where the information overload happens. And trust me when I say that your brain is not going to be able to memorize everything. So just bring a pen and paper and make sure to take note everything. Another thing, you also want to make sure that you do not absent, especially on the product training. Miss one day of your product training and you're pretty much going to be lost. Most of the time, the length of time that your trainer is going to spend on the product training is even not going to be enough to absorb everything. So the best thing to do here is just to take note and make sure that you don't absent so that you absorb every single thing that you can. This is also the time that you're going to learn how to use the tools needed for the job. And by tools, I mean the applications that you're going to be using once you're on the floor and assisting customers. Consider yourself lucky if you only have 3 to 5 applications to familiarize with in your account. Most of the time, it's going to be around 8 to 10 applications. It's a little bit hard, but this is the time that you really need to pay attention to what is being taught during the training, even if it's the most boring stage of your training. And for the third stage of your training comes the mock calls. The difference with this mock call and the usual mock calls that you get during the recruitment is that this mock call during your training is going to be harder and more complicated because you see, you're not gonna be making up your answer as you go. You will have to base your answer on the product knowledge that you learn during your product training. So it is very important that you learn the call flow by heart. That's really the most important thing that you can do in this stage. Without knowing the call flow by heart, you're not just gonna pass this stage, period. So if you haven't yet, I suggest that you check my mock call playlist. In my mock call playlist, I have put together the 7 steps of the call flow. So I'm just going to link it down up here so you can click that when you have time. Once you learn the call flow by heart, I want you to grab a co-trainee, preferably a co-trainee that already has a call center experience. And I want you to make up mock call scenarios with her. You could act as the customer and then your co-trainee as the agent and vice versa. Throughout your series of mock calls, you want to vary the customer's issues and problems and questions. You also want to change the personality of each customer. And you want to also change a little the complexity of the problem. The good thing about this is the closest that you can get to an actual call. This way, you're better prepared for the actual calls on the floor because you're basically using the product knowledge that you learned from stage 2 and then you're applying that in a mock call. That's why I prefer that you pick a co-trainee that already has a call center experience because she would know what she's doing when she acts as the customer or acts as an agent. She already have that instinct, that experience. This tip is really important if you have no call center experience and you just don't have any idea what goes on in an actual call. So I recommend that you do this apart from the mock calls that you're doing on the training floor. Because take note that your trainer is also gonna do some mock calls with you while you're on the training class. But what I really recommend is that you do your own mock calls with a co-trainee exclusively because this will really help you get ahead or at least not get behind, especially if you are a newbie. Remember that a call center training is not like a classroom where the teacher has to help you out and give you special attention to be able to catch up. Well, your trainee could still do that a little, but it's not like she's going to really focus on you. I want you to just be efficient as much as you can, and doing mock calls with an experienced co-trainee is going to help you a lot. What I really recommend here again is to memorize the call flow and do as much mock calls with your co-trainee, and you should have a good chance of passing this test. So the fourth stage and the last stage of the call center training is the nesting or the barge in. What happens during a nesting is you basically observe what the call center agents are doing on the floor. So you basically go to the floor and you are given a headset. This headset will allow you to listen to a call center agent with his or her customers live. Yes, you're really going to be listening to live and actual calls. Nesting and barge in usually only lasts around 2 to 3 days. This should be almost enough to give you a realistic view of what goes on during an actual call with an actual customer. So my one and only tip when you're on this stage is to make sure that you ask smart questions to the call center agent that you're assigned to. So remember that you're going to be given a headset, right? And you're going to be sitting with an agent. You're going to be assigned to an agent. And at this point, you're actually expected to ask the call center agent questions. Of course, you need to ask the questions when she is not busy. So when you get that opportunity to ask questions, make sure that you are asking smart questions. What I mean by this is don't ask questions that you can find easily in your product knowledge because that would be a wasted opportunity for you. Ask questions that is not found in the product knowledge, questions that really confuses you and you think that this question is only going to be answered by a tenured call center agent. Those are the questions that you need to be asking during your nesting period. This will help you tremendously once you're on the floor. The good thing about asking an experienced call center agent that's working for the account that you're going to be working for is you know that you are getting the right answer. So once all these 4 stages of the call center training are done, this is the time that you are going to get the job offer from the company. And lastly, these are the tips that I recommend that you should do all throughout the 4 stages of the training. The first one is to practice your English. I know that you have passed your call center job interview, and that's something. But because English is our second language, then most of the time, there's always going to be room for improvement. And if you think that this applies to you, then you really need to always practice your English, even if you already passed your job interview. In fact, this is the best time to practice your English every single day. Even if you're outside the call center training room, make it a point to always talk in English, think in English, talk to your family members in English, even if they laugh, because I assure you, it's going to be really overwhelming once you're on the floor and you know that you're talking to an actual customer who's a native English speaker. Add to that the anxiety, the novelty, and the information overload that you have to deal with. It's gonna diminish your English. I am pretty sure that all of these will somehow negatively affect your communication skills, your English fluency. So now that you're still on training, I really suggest that you use that time to improve your English. Practice, practice, practice as much as you can. Basically, what you want to do here is to learn the conversational English, the English that native English speakers speak every day. And the best way to do that is to watch movies and watch YouTube videos of native English speakers. Or better yet, if you know a native English speaker personally, you could have a daily conversation with them, and that would be the best way to practice your English. I don't care what you do, just make sure that you practice your English and that you consume materials that are spoken by native English speakers. Another thing is you need to make sure that you sleep well, especially if your shift is a night shift. If you are a night shift, then I'm sure that it's really gonna mess with your body clock. So just make sure to get as much sleep as you can. Make sure that there is no light in your room, and make sure that your room is well ventilated so you get that 8 hours of sleep. The change of time zone is going to at least make you drowsy for a few days or even weeks. So coffee is your best friend. You also want to make sure that you work out. And I know this is really cliche. You need to exercise and work out and move your body, but how many of us are actually doing this? You don't have any excuses for not doing exercise because you just go to YouTube. There's a lot of free videos online, which means you don't even have to spend money on a gym. 10 minutes exercise really is going to help you already. I have experienced it personally. I do hate exercise, but I know that it is necessary. When I don't exercise in 3 days, I can already feel it in my mood. I'm not even exercising to build muscles or to get some abs. I'm really just exercising to improve my mood, because with a bad mood, you're not just gonna do anything productive. I personally recommend cardios and HIIT or high intensity training because it will speed up your heart rate, and it will at least compensate for the sedentary lifestyle that most call center agents have, and you will probably have once you're in. If you don't like that so much, you can also do yoga, but I just recommend that you just get your body moving. It's very important for the mood, especially if you are going to be working in the call center. And lastly, and the most important tip is that know that you're going to make mistakes and you should not feel bad about them. You make mistakes and you move on. The important thing is that you learn from them and you don't make the same mistakes again. I have seen some call center trainees who give up, and it is such a waste, especially if they're already in the last stage of the training and they decided to just give up because they think it is too much for them. Call center is not for everyone, but if you can and you really want to be in this industry, then a little more optimism is really recommended, because this job is going to be really overwhelming, especially if you're a beginner. All right, so those are all my tips on how to pass your call center training. And if you have any questions, suggestions, you know what to do. Comment down below. And if you need to practice a mock call now, then check this playlist above, because that is where I store all the mock call recordings in this channel. And if you like this video, consider liking and subscribing, because I'm going to be uploading more videos like this in the future. Bye!